we're gonna get this bolster repaired today on this log trailer. This thing's been patched on and welded on multiple times. These are only 3/16 normally, 3/16 thick. Probably undersized for what they go through. So after this breaks, sometimes welding on it multiple times is never a good idea. What we're gonna do is, for this particular bolster, I'm gonna cut all this off, get it on the ground, cut it here. I've got a new piece of 1/4 inch 5x5 tubing. I'm gonna give it a good weld there, and I'm gonna come in here with some 1/2 inch material and bring the gussets on up past that weld. So that's what we're gonna do. Next step that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just gouge off this plate, cut it off with a torch. But for me, it's faster and easier just to go down through here with the gouger and just gouge that weld off nice and clean. All right, we got the plates on both sides gouged off. Now I'm gonna come in here with the cutting torch and cut down this weld here to get this bolster down. I could do it with the gouger. I can come in here with the gouger, but for me, I find the torch easier if I don't have to save this piece. But you could easily do it with the gouger if you wanted to listen to it run. Either way, it'll get it done. Right now the bolster's leaning that way, and I'm not going to worry about setting my crane up to hold it, so I'm going to go ahead and leave this weld attached, go on the other side and cut down that, and then I'll stand over here and make the last cut. All right, now I'm going to be left with the inside of that tubing the way I cut it out. Now I'm going to come back and just kind of work back the line until this tubing peel off. All right, a little bit of grinding on that, and we'll be ready to go. All right, the next thing we're gonna do is just come up here above all this mess, and we're gonna square us a line. We've got another bolster on another trailer that we're gonna replace the entire bolster, but on this one, we're gonna salvage what we got here. This is 3/16 tubing, and this is the triple auto jib. Cuts like that on thin material. A lot of people, you know, that I've worked around in my career, they would want to use them a Tabo, a cutting disc, to cut that, and that's a great way to cut thin material like this, but I promise you, you will never master learning how to use other tools like cutting torches if you're constantly using a cutting disc. It's just something that you got to break away from to be able to be proficient I always like to check it with a square because I mean I want a gap to be even when I go to weld this thing back together. So if I don't check my squareness now and I go to put it up there, I want the piece to be square and an even gap. So the first step is make sure you got your gap. So I've got a little bit of an opening down here at the bottom, and that tells me this face right here needs to move back a little bit. We brought from the shop, and I cut this piece on the bandsaw. I'm gonna go ahead and double check it and make sure it's still good and square. It's square, so I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bevel on that and then get ready to put these two pieces together. All right, now I'm gonna turn this sawhorse long way so I can run both these pieces down this sawhorse and eliminate having to use a jack stand to hold up that. And a lot of times on this, stuff like this, if it looks straight, it's straight. So we just eyeball. If you got a dog leg and something like this, you'll always be able to see it. So I'm gonna get the welder set up and get back going. It looks pretty straight this way. And looking across the top, now I'm gonna roll it over and we'll check it again, make sure we're still good. This kind of job right here, without some sort of platform, working surface to work off of, would be a nightmare. All right, looking down through there, everything looks pretty close, which it should be because we took the time, we squared up this piece to where it was perfect, and then we also made sure this piece was squared. So in reality, in theory, I should have a perfect gap all the way around, and I do. I worked with a lot of pipe fitters through my career that just couldn't get that. If everything is square to begin with, we should have a square fit. Notice I flipped it all the way over 180 degrees. I welded this bottom side. Now I need to go over here on this top side. So it'll draw, if it drew in, it'll draw back the other way. I'm using Lincoln NR233 wire. Seems to draw a lot of attention when I use this wire. There's a lot of stuff about this wire that I don't like. But for stuff like this, to finish these jobs to where I make my money and the customer don't get charged a hefty bill, speed is the only way to do that. And this job could be done with a 7018, but it would just be a little bit slower. Dual shield would be great, But as you see right here, it's windy out here today. And for stuff like this, I just don't like taking the time to set up a lot of wind blocks to try to do it with wire that needs gas. So we use this wire a lot, but there's a lot of stuff that we don't use it on. Stuff like this, I feel like it's a great thing to use to keep the process moving along. It's a little bit of slag built up on each corner, so I'm just going to feather that out with a grinder. Alright, that's welded up. I went ahead and anytime I'm doing something like this and I've got a random piece, if it's not extremely long and hard to deal with, I'll just weld it on there, and I'll pull my measurement down and make my final cut after the fact that it's welded on. All right, we got it cleaned up, got the piece welded on, and now I'm gonna get the truck backed up just a little bit and swing the crane around and we'll hang it up and get this thing welded back in place. All right, I've got one tack on it, dead center on the top. I try to leave a little bitty gap before I tacked it. That way you have room to try to get it lined back up. If that would have been tied up against this piece of tubing and you tack it, it's gonna suck it in, and chances are it's gonna be like this, and you're not gonna be able to get it to go this way anymore. By leaving a little bitty gap before you tack it, you have a little bit of adjustment there. So right now, there's nothing on this trailer that's straight. So what I like to do is just kind of find a happy medium and make it look like it's gonna blend in with the rest of it. So right now, I'll go down here to this end and kind of look at them all. And depending on which way it needs to go, I'll probably tap a little wedge into the bottom to hold it before I tack it. Okay, so surprisingly, that looks pretty good. Looking at it this way and looking at it along this way. So I'm just gonna finish getting this thing tacked off. I went halfway up that side. Now I'm gonna jump around to the other side and go all the way up that side. All right, I made it halfway up, got a little hot, and I blew through a little bit. And when that happens to me, I'll just jump back over here and let that side cool off. Because like I said, this is 3/16. This piece is quartered, but 3/16 to quarter inch. Sometimes it's best just to let it cool down a little bit and jump back on. Alright, that's that. Got it welded on. Now, I brought some material. Come in here with a brace. We're going to go above that weld and brace that out right there. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the gussets, braces, whatever you want to call them. Out of some flat bar here, some 3/8 by 6. I try to do my best to keep a lot of flat bar in stock, doing on-site work. A lot of times you'll get lucky and have the right dimension width-wise, and you'll just have to cut it to length. I'm gonna do my best to make everything match. I'm gonna put the brace in a different spot, but here's what I gouged off. So roughly how I would figure out that angle is kind of come down. It's close to 10 inches right there where the angle started. So I'll just transfer that over to my new piece of flat bar. Drop it down 10 inches, make a mark, and then carry that up to the top. And I'm gonna go, let's see, I'm gonna come down 11.5. And come in 1.25 inches and do it like that. And I'll kind of round that over so it'll be a radius there instead of a sharp point. And this one needs to be, make the mark down here, 23. Square that off. And on the inside, on both sides, put a little radius on that. With cutting curves, I find it easier to stand on the inside of the curve. You can kind of create a pivot point and work around it. It's a much natural feeling to me, but I'm fixing to lose my rest. So I'm gonna have to come out here on this side and finish the cut off. Okay, that's one of those. We need two. Almost every time I only lay out one time and use the one I just cut as a template. This stuff has not got to be precise. It just needs to get done fast. So this will be plenty close enough. I don't even need to grind it right now. I'll just line up the edges and trace it out. So we got our second part there. And always come, you know, you don't want to cut it off here, you got more to cut over there. Then you have to do something with that piece. Just work your way this way. Always try to get the guide on the side that's not going to fall off. It works better for me. First thing I'm gonna do is get this little after I put the side plates on, I won't be able to access that side well.